is an open source initiative, and we are looking for more people to join that ecosystem. So how I got to get here that, one of these calls where you talk about what you do, and I was saying how I was having my weekend and reading this paper on OpenVPN and VPN fingerprinting. And Nanda heard about it, and Nanda was like, yeah, why not you come and present in one of our meetings? So that is how I got here. And yeah, I'm not sure if you guys have a format of doing this paper review meetings or meetups. I was thinking the way we do it in school is that we have this session where everyone reads the paper, and then we have this small, like a small 2 or 3 groups, 2 to 3 group, and everyone just shares what they have. Like it's a merry-go-round of everyone sharing ideas. That might not be a deal here because maybe some guys might have not read the paper. So I quickly borrowed, I'm using borrowed as the quotes because the slides are not mine. The slides from the guys who wrote the actual paper. So I'll try to alternate between the slides and the actual paper. Hope that works with you guys. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to interrupt or ask. I don't know if you guys want this to be interactive session where we share, or you just want me to do like a whole presentation. So I'll try to balance between the two. Yeah. That should be it. I think we can get started. So give me a minute, just need to bring my pen here.
Sounds good. I think it's okay also for people to interject, like maybe ask you a question.
Yeah. Okay. So I tend to have like a little bit of 1 or 2 words, Swahili words in my speech. I hope that everyone understands a little bit of Swahili. Yeah, but the paper is about OpenVPN and VPN fingerprinting. And what's happening recently is that there's been an increase on ISP monitoring, different governments trying to censor traffics of their people. And yeah, this has been happening all over. So in different countries, especially in Asian countries. And we've seen VPN usage being on the rise. And this is not only with corporate, but also with normal internet users. So because of censorship, we have VPN predominantly now being used by non-enterprise settings. VPN, I think how VPN works is just creates an encrypted tunnel around your traffic, so the internet traffic that you have. And yeah, so there's a bunch of VPN protocols out there. I think OpenVPN being a popular one. And this is why these people decided to study this protocol. So according to the paper, the angle they were trying to approach this was that previous research mostly was focused on like integrity and confidentiality of that tunnel. So the VPN creates an encrypted tunnel around like your packet, around what's being sent over the internet. And previous attacks mainly tried to like do some spoofing attacks on that tunnel, or they try to leak the data packets in the tunnel. And now that we are having all this sensitization and monitoring by different threat models like ISP and governments, VPN attack is now focused on availability. So ISPs are trying to like throttle the internet, or they're trying to set to completely sensitize internet traffics. And this is the angle in which this is approaching this issue. So the threat has been seen in many countries, especially I think there's some reports in India, Russia. We also have China, which is predominantly has issues with monitoring how the internet is being used by the users. So this is an issue that actually exists. And the reason for this is because at the moment, ISPs and government can easily access all the deep packet inspection tools. So they can use this to actually monitor the packets that are flowing through the internet. On the other side, VPN providers themselves have also tried to so they've noticed that there's an increase in VPN usage among like normal users, and they're trying to come up with this obfuscated. So I don't know if anyone read this term, hope I pronounce it well. Obfuscated VPN services. So this is where, so apart from the VPN protocol, so there's the vanilla VPN protocol. So they're trying to add in additional layers to make that protocol more secure. And there's a bunch of many different companies or different open source companies trying to come up with different obfuscated services just around the vanilla VPN protocol that we have. And yeah, so the two main questions that the authors were raising was, can governments and ISPs identify VPN traffic? And this is the one, this was like doing it in real time. So you actually have, identify the VPN traffic in real time. And then they also trying to do it at scale. So identify the VPN traffic in real time, do so at scale, and without having any collateral damages. So yeah, without like blocking or like anyone knowing that's happening. And these two questions are what have been answered in the paper. I'm trying to, I don't know if anyone went through the paper, I read it once or twice, but if you feel like there's something we need to discuss, I think that might have touched the background of the paper. If you feel like there's anything we need to talk about, just let me know, or anything important. Yeah, feel free to interrupt. So the next session is apart from, so we have the the VPN protocol itself. So I think the focus will be OpenVPN at the moment because it's the most popular protocol for commercial VPN services. I think it's also open source and it has a bunch of, it has like a huge community of people working on it. On top of the vanilla OpenVPN protocol as well, they have some obfuscated services built on it. And OpenVPN has a mechanism to deal with fingerprinting attempts. So later on in the chapter, we'll talk about how they're doing some HMAC certificate fingerprinting to deal with fingerprinting attempts. But yeah, the focus on this research paper was purely on OpenVPN, and this is not. This doesn't mean that we can only use these techniques on OpenVPN. I feel like we can. They actually stated that if you can still apply these techniques to other VPN protocols up there. So yeah. So the question is OpenVPN open to fingerprinting? That's the big question. And before we go to the way they built the actual framework on how they did this, there are other previous work that has been done before to just to answer this question. And this has been based mainly on machine learning models and flow level statistics. So according to the paper, most of these approaches are trying to look at connection duration and trying to do some traffic symmetry. And the real reason why this would not work in a practice setting is because first of all, most of the data set they use are made in a lab. Like these are not like real world traffic flows. And also the real world ML-based censorship system are not documented. So there seem to be a lot of there's a little bit of a black box around how you use ML models in the real world. And with this, so with this now, I think they came to the way they do it, the way their framework works. So the way these guys have done it is, let me make this a little bit bigger. They have like a two-phased framework. So the authors partnered with Merit. So Merit is and it's a popular ISP. It's not popular. It's like a mid-scale ISP provider, and they mainly partnered with Merit because Merit allows research around networking and VPN users for universities. So they had this two-phase framework that was deployed inside one of the Merit network servers. And what this does is that it sits on one of the background routers in a Merit network. And so the first step is, so I think we can all see here is that this is the normal traffic passing through Merit. And you deploy, so this is where the framework sits inside the Merit network. And what happens is that, so the traffic that flows between this network is mirrored to a filtering station. So the first part of this framework is that it has a filter. And so after this traffic has been mirrored to this filter, so we'll get to we'll get to more details on how the filter works later. But after we get to the filter and after we get this traffic in the filter, the filtering is less active. It's a lightweight filter, so it filters the results and then forwards them to a prober. So the first part of the framework is the filtering part, and then the next part is the probing part. And so all the results from the filters are then forwarded to the prober. And then, so the output of the filters are just server IP addresses of addresses that might be OpenVPN addresses. And then the prober then sends, so after being sent to the prober then sends targeted probes. So these are dedicated probes to all those endpoints that were flagged by the filter. And I think that should be the fourth step. The fifth step is after confirmation. So after the prober confirms the endpoints that the probes are sent to, they're stored in like a manual file or like in a manual database for analysis now. So yeah, think of this as I'm thinking of this as, I think there like a whole diagram. Yeah. I'm thinking of this like as a two-step process, where the first step is the filter, and then the prober, and then this follows each other. So it's step one, then step two, and yeah, I think this diagram basically simplifies the whole framework. Not sure if anyone has any questions about how the framework works.
I
Yeah.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Could you explain how the filtering works?
Yeah, just get into that in the next section.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Yeah, but this is I just wanted to give an overview of the whole, how the whole framework works. And before I even go in detail on how the filter works, filtering is, so this is very passive. This is, it's done passively, and the second state, this is an active. So the filtering phase is lightweight, and this is where where the dedicated probe is sent. This is where it's a very active process, and so according to the authors, they've done it like in a sequential state. First, they use the filters and then the probes, and this technique is also used by these guys, so the Great Firewalls of China. GFW. I think there's been an internal war around ISP, around censorship in China, and these guys have been like doing a great job of trying to censor traffic in the country. Yeah, so we'll touch on how the filter works, the filtering part, and then about that we'll now touch on how the filtering works. Give me a sec, my team's behaving, and then I will go on the probing phase. So as I said, the filtering part is lightweight, and so the filters flows in the following ways. So first of all, OpenVPN itself implements its own handshake, which is very similar to TLS style handshake. And during this process, let me see if I have a good diagram of this from the paper. Okay, not really. I'll try to just explain it. Hope it makes sense. So as I said, OpenVPN itself implements its own handshake, which is very similar to TLS handshake. I think I remember where I saw this. It's the very beginning of the paper. Yeah, this is how the handshake looks like in OpenVPN. And yeah, so what happens is that we have this opcodes, which is sent. So the opcodes just denotes the stage where its session is, and each opcode is unique. And so what the author does is that they try to analyze each opcode bytes of the session. So each of the opcode bytes. And then, so if the number of different opcode values observed during the handshake, it's similar to how OpenVPN itself implements its opcode values, then they can conclude that this is an open VPN flow. So they're just trying to statically match what they're seeing in the network flow and how OpenVPN itself implements the opcode values when it does the TLS. When it does its own handshake. When it does it on handshake for like the control channel messages. So this can be done statically, and this has been done before. but according to the paper, they came up with a way of doing it dynamically. And this is to cater for obfuscated flows, which can alter the opcode values. So obfuscated flow can sometimes alter how this opcode flows appear. And yeah, that is how the first, so that's how the first filtering. So filtering, there are two methods. The first one, it tries to exploit how the opcode pattern works, and which just trying to like statically match, like if they observe that these opcode values are similar to how OpenVPN implements its opcode values, then the filter can probably flag this as a potential OpenVPN flaw. Then the second one tries to, so yeah, definitely. So the opcode value itself is found in the header of the of each session, and these are how I'm not coming from a background of networking, so if there's someone in the chat or in the call who has more context on networking, feel free to jump in and give some additions. Yeah, but each opcode values is unique. So I think those are some of the things, maybe the key things you can notice, that is each opcode value is unique. And you can actually match this with how OpenVPN implements its own opcode, like how the OpenVPN protocol works itself. And and as I said, the paper also came up with a way of doing this dynamically so that you can deal with obfuscated variants. Honestly, I've been having issues pronouncing this one. So the first way was trying to leverage on how the opcode works. Then the second way on how the filtering works is the ACK, so the acknowledgement packet. So during the filtering phase as well, the authors observed that the patterns of the ACK patterns during OpenVPN TLS handshakes can provide another fingerprintable feature. So the filtering flags, so the ACK packets are usually uniform in size for each session, and they can only be seen in certain parts of the session. So first of all, the authors, what they did is that they identified the ACK packets by looking at the first packet exchange. And in most cases, this would appear at the third packet in the transmission in the session. For XOR-based obfuscated or vanilla-based, this was the third-based packet. And in cases where we had obfuscated, then this could be upset. This could be offset by the number of tunnels in the obfuscator. So after identifying this ACK packet, the filter just groups the packets in the flow into bins, and in each bin you count the number of packets that has the same size as the ACK packet that you identified. So if you identify, so the filter then just flags the flow with the highest number of ACK packets in the earlier bin and absence of them in the later bin. So if you identify you have in a certain bin, you have your ACK packets, you have more ACK packets in the earlier bins than in the later one, then you'd flag that as an OpenVPN flow. I kind of borrowed this slide, so I think this slide will summarize all that on how that works. So so those are the two. So that's how the filtering phase of the framework works. And you have the key things you have to note here is that this is a lightweight phase, and this is also done in real time. And the results, as you can see, from all these flaws, you can see that they managed to so they managed to filter about 15K out of this 2 million flaws. So though it works, if you scale up this would not be efficient enough because these are so many false positive, and hence you would need the second part of the framework, which is the probers, to even increase this accuracy. So after the filtering phase, let me make sure I get back to, yeah. So after we are done with doing the filtering, then we just forward. So what we forward are just IP and port addresses of the target VPN, OpenVPN servers that you suspect. So these are then forwarded to the probers. And how the probing works, it's very it's almost similar to how the filtering work, because we're still trying to just leverage how OpenVPN protocol itself works. So a brief overview on how OpenVPN protocol itself works is that it has a defense mechanism. I think it's called and I think it's a HMAX signature. So okay, fundamentally how OpenVPN servers respond to client reset is the server reset, and then this is how they give away the identity. And then OpenVPN also includes like an additional HMAX signature. So this is just a signed pre-shared key, and this is for like integrity verification of all the packets that are being sent. And so sending an authenticated client reset would immediately so this is a packet without a valid HMAX signature. This would immediately be dropped, and the connection will be closed without OpenVPN actually processing that packet. And OpenVPN, so those servers would remain silent without even without like sharing anything with you. So if you send an unauthenticated packet, it would immediately be dropped, and the server will remain silent. So this was a challenge to these authors because in this VPN servers, they would be sending their probes, but the probes would just be silent. And they found a way of actually leveraging how this works. So the way they designed the probing component is to exploit this behavior of this design behaviors of OpenVPN, where they remain silent when you send them unauthorized packets. And there's a nice diagram that I think I should show you first before we dive deep into that, how that probing system works. Anyone feel free to interrupt. I can't see the chat, so hoping that guys are still following. Yeah, so this is how we process a new, this is how new TCP packets are processed in OpenVPN. So the key things that we need to know here is that we have these routines to read your packets, and then we have the buffer. So so the packets are read in bits, like you don't read the whole packets. Then you have a buffer where you read. So also in the packet, you have the packet header. So the packet would have like a header, and this header would have like a number n. So this number would be like the number of bytes of the packets. So OpenVPN, this read routines so the key thing is that you have a buffer in memory. You read the packets in chunks and store them in your buffer. Then after you read after you completed the reading phase, then you go to the reassembling phase. And so this other part, you reassemble all the packets that you read in the buffer. Then you do a little bit of checks. So there are checks around like validity of the length and the address and all that. And then, so this is where that H mark signature comes in, and it does the check. And yeah, so this part up to here. So if it's a valid H marks, then so in this side, I think there should be a yes. If it's yes, it's okay. If it's no, it drops it. So let me try to go through that again, and I'll show you how they'll exploit how this mechanism works. So if you send an authenticated packet, you'll definitely read it, and then you'll reassemble it, but it will be dropped because it's unauthenticated. So now coming back to how OpenVPN leverages this is that okay. Sorry, I'm jumping across all these two documents. I just want to make sure that I got everything right. So the probing phase is first. There's the base probes. So the two base probes. So these are sequentials. So these are one after the other. So the first part of the probing is that the authors first deploy these two probes, and then they send additional probes. So it's this first two and then the additional part. And the way the probes work is that we know, so the way I've explained, at high level, new packets are processed in that we have routines to read new packets and store them in a buffering memory. Then the number of packets to read is usually specified in the packet header. After all the packets have arrived, we have routines to reassemble and process the packets received and stored in the buffer. So, and also in this stage, we also verify the length of the packets and check the validity of the HMAC signatures, like among other verification processes. So and also just to repeat, the key thing to note here is that the second stage of processing the packets. So this processing of the packets will not be executed until we have reassembled. So we will not go to this phase until we have reassembled all the packets in here. All right. So the first thing they do is that when you send an invalid probe, so how this works, the first, I don't know, should I use this one? No, I think this is a better one. Okay, so let's say it's big as well. So when I send this probe, so when I send a probe and let's say this is invalid, this would time out. This would be like a short close immediately because we would read it, we would reassemble it, we would verify the length, but it will fail with the HMAC signature. So immediately it fails. Then so the first step with the two sequential probes, we send the first one, then we send the second one. And when we've sent the first one and we realize it closes immediately, we send the second one, but we just omit the last, so they just omit like some bytes in the probe itself, so in the payload. So they remove some payload. And what will happen is that this will get stuck in the socket in this read routine. So the read routines here will be waiting for this extra bit of payload to be read, and then it will be stuck here for a while. So we won't be able to get to this other phase of reassembling that packet because we're still waiting for the packet to be received, and then we'll end up. So what will happen that the server will just the connection will just time out because we can't get anything. So with this, because with this we can point out this to be an open VPN flow, because after this two stages, we can determine that the base probe 1 has a short close, and then the second probe has a long probe, just by exploiting how this protocol works. And that's how the first two probes work. I hope I did justice with that. Let me know if you guys have any questions. So apart from the two probes, they have additional other probes. So this is just an additional other probes. And the additional other probes is just trying to exploit, make sure I have, okay. Yeah, the other probes are just trying to exploit, so they're trying to exploit how the OpenVPN packet length validation routine works by dropping connection and sending invalid lengths without waiting for the next packets if the check fails. Also, there's also an additional probe that leverages the behaviors of TCP connections. So this is similar to how TCP connection works in Linux, where it will send a reset packet if the connection closes with an unread byte in the buffer. And then the authors also explored an additional, I think the last option was where they were exploring reset threshold. So this was server reset threshold. And they realized that when they had probes with, so this is the last one, they had like probes with 2000 random bytes and send them to the servers. They had like a short close. And this was approximately 98% of OpenVPN servers would respond with the server set packet and a short close. And this would work. This would work. These are like for some of the last probes that you'd send. And in addition to this, they also leverage the fact that OpenVPN provides support for port sharing. So when you have failure, when the packets failed, the packet is sent to another service that's sharing the port. So the ports, so these services could be like the HTTP, SSH, or TLS. So this would work because after you've done all this, like the first two probing, and you've done all of this, and you send a packet to HTTP or SSH, and you get a response, then definitely there's some kind of port sharing that's happening, and that's where you're getting a response. So that is how this framework works. Just go back and make sure. Yeah, that's it, how the whole of this framework works. So it's just two parts. The first part is the filter, very passive. Then the next part is the probe part, which is now very active. And with that, now I think they came to the testing. So they tested this on the commercial VPN that they're stating the paper, and they said that they could identify 39 out of 40 vanilla configurations of OpenVPN. I was also surprised by this figure, because most of the obfuscated flows are also detectable, and this is a very interesting figure. Yeah, 34 out of 41. It would be surprising that you pay for a VPN subscription and you are still vulnerable to attacks. And yeah, so what's happening is that most of the obfuscated VPN services still use OpenVPN as their fundamental protocol. So I think OpenVPN being predominant in the market and being widely used, this is why most of these VPN services decide to go with this protocol. And then the fact that there's also like insufficient obfuscation. So I think this is touched in the next slide where so the most common obfuscated VPN is the XOR obfuscation. XOR obfuscation just scrambles around the packets. And okay, let me just talk about them. Then there's also the tunneling based, where they have like an additional encrypted tunnel. And then you have VPN obfuscators, where they obfuscate the servers themselves. But this is the most popular obfuscated technique employed by VPN providers. And the reason why this is failing XOR obfuscation is because of the one-to-one correspondence. So XOR obfuscation just scrambles around the packets. And there's like the code, I think there's a code somewhere for how that works. So this is how that scrambling works. And if you look at this code closely, you do realize that the first byte of this packet is actually not scrambled. So the way they start and the end, so it starts at the start plus one. So the first byte in this packet is actually not scrambled, and that is the main the issue that's affecting this kind of obfuscation, where there's like one-to-one correspondence between the first opcode. This addition.
Sorry. I have two questions.
Yeah.
So the first question is, I'm guessing them deciding not to, is that by design, that the first byte is not XORed?
Yeah, so I think when I look at it closer is that you have what if you have an edge case where you only have like one byte in that? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about it. So how if you had two, yeah, because the logic to reverse to scramble this, yeah, I don't have the details, but that's at the top of my mind. Yeah.
So okay, so that follows up on my second question. I'm guessing this obfuscation techniques are usually done in the data channel, right? Like during transmitting of the data itself, as opposed to obfuscation during the handshake. Or does obfuscation also happen during the handshake?
No. It
doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, prior to the handshake. Yeah.
Okay. Then in that case, the filter in itself grabs a bunch of like possible OpenVPN connections.
Yeah. I was also surprised by how like at the filtering stage we already had like so much. Yeah. The numbers were.
It would
the
be
numbers
like
were
I'm guessing the number of sorry.
Yeah, this is like a huge number just considering from this. Like this is huge. I was also surprised by these figures. And just the prober just now does the work of even fine-tuning the whole thing and making it as accurate as possible, which was quite impressive.
What's the drop in IPs found from like filtering to probing?
I don't have the numbers offhand, but there was a good diagram if I can get it real quick.
Okay.
Okay, I'll get the numbers. But let me finish up on this part.
Okay.
That was sorry, I just told this. No, I just borrowed these slides today in the morning. So working here with you guys. Yeah.
All right.
All the these VPN services that are claiming to be providing obfuscation, I think it was 4 out of 5 of them are all using this technique, and this technique has this flaw. So this is why this is happening. This is why this number is very high. And yeah. So accuracy, yeah, definitely accuracy. So they did it on there's a part of the paper where they had the evaluation done. They flagged like this number of flaws, and this is like this much. This is how less accurate they are, and yeah, I think they could flag 90% of the flaws as OpenVPN flaws, which is quite impressive. So conclusion, yes, we can fingerprint OpenVPN flaws within any networks. And there's also risk of throttling and blocking and even follow-up attempts. And yeah, they gave some recommendations on how short-term defense and long-term defense and advice to, sorry, let me make this. Yeah, advice to the VPN providers on not collocating services together, and yeah, I think these are the main findouts, where they realize that encrypted tunnels just lacks random paddings. Then obfuscated also shares infrastructures with vanilla TCP servers. But yeah, the thing that the goal of the paper to find out if we can actually fingerprint VPN usage, and we can do such at a scale without any collateral damages, actually was actually seen in the papers. And did I miss anything? Yeah, not really. Okay, yeah. I feel like I've taken so much time, but yeah, that would be like a brief summary of that paper. Let me get my chat back, see if there's any. I don't have my chat. I don't know who dropped and who's still around. Okay, I still have a few people.
Thank you for taking us through the paper.
Yeah, I actually don't have background in networking, and I've been trying to get this degree to get some understanding of like networking and all that. And this module seemed to have opened up my head around VPN and networking and all that. Yeah. But
Nice.
Any questions, any comments, any feedback? I didn't get the approach right. I was trying to do like a little bit of using the slides and going through the paper, but yeah, I don't know how you guys have your format out here. Yeah, any questions, any feedback? Let me know.
For me, feedback, I think it went well. Like you giving us like a summary of the paper makes it easy actually to like find places to ask questions.
Yeah.
To get deeper. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's one of these guys came to my university as well. So we had them, I think there's a professor in Microsoft at the moment. And he works at Cambridge, so I also went to visit him. And they're doing some research along the lines of network attacks on machine learning models. And they had this big conference in Cambridge, and I was part of that, and we went to see his lab on how all this works. But yeah, this is like some recent study, so yeah, it's something that's going on, and it's very recent as well. if anyone would like to explore more on this, I think these are things that might interest you.
Sounds great. Maybe also, maybe in line of the same, maybe if you have more papers that you can recommend, you can just maybe send them on the group.
Sure. Yeah.
Like some related papers that people can check out.
Yeah, sure. I don't have access to the chat, but my supervisor was sent me a few papers that I could share with you guys. I still don't have. Do you guys have
actually, are you in the group? In the LinkedIn group, we're trying to see whether we can use more of the LinkedIn group.
Okay, all right.
So actually, if you post, so that even the externals can also see it, and even the guys who missed this session.
Okay, fair enough. I think I saw the link to join that. Yeah, I'll definitely join that. Okay, any questions, Ruth? Sure. Sorry, I didn't get your message. Victor, I think there's a guest. Timothy, any feedback?
I think for me is I remember reading about the net neutrality a while back and I didn't quite understand it, but it's interesting to see how easy it is for like the government to like prevent us from accessing certain kinds of information. And we've also seen it like in Uganda when elections are coming up.
Yeah.
So I'm glad Kenya hasn't done it yet, but who knows, maybe they are doing it. It's just that we don't know yet. So it's scary just to think about how easy it is for me to not access any information based on how my government feels. And I can't do anything about it unless research like this is done to create software that would help avoid that. Yeah. So it was nice learning about it. Thanks.
Thanks, Ruth. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for me also, I think it was good. Sorry, I dropped off for 10 minutes, but I think by the time I was around, I think it was quite eye-opening to see how everything works. And I had a question around, our first comment was, I posted on the chat, but of course you didn't see it, but I said, I think I've experienced that thing of VPNs having poor, like being throttled, sort of. I don't know if anyone has ever experienced where VPNs don't really. The time I was using a VPN until I gave up. Nowadays I'm not on a VPN. I would just see like internet was like the packets would drop and then the quality was just bad. And now for you to be productive, you just have to get off. Yeah, so I think that's a very interesting strategy that they use to just discourage people from using the VPN.
Yeah. I am always shy from using VPNs most of the time because I know they'll always monitor. I don't trust VPNs, but at least now, after reading this, I think I know one or two VPNs that I would definitely be keen on checking out.
Yeah, actually, my question was around that. Like, is it possible for VPN providers to be compromised or also to be rogue?
And that's a good question, and that's like an internal war going on between these ISPs and governmental censors and VPN providers. So part of this paper was just also to advise VPN providers. So I think there's a bunch of VPN providers that they gave this feedback to on the vulnerability of the services that they are offering to their customers. So yeah, I think it's an internal war. It keeps on going. Like the VPN guys comes up with something, censorship and all the ISPs try to get around that, and it's just an ongoing battle. Thanks, Anto. Thanks for listening. Yeah. If there's no other question from maybe Timothy, Victor, sure I don't know who can give it back to you, Anto, Kemunto, not sure who.
You can give it back to me.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me as well.
Sure. You mentioned about networking. I shared a link to the book. It's called
Okay.
TCP Illustrated.
Okay.
And then there is this article from this book called POC or GTFO. I don't know if anyone knows about it. So there is this article called Scapa is too high level. I will share a link to it if I find. But the article pretty much you work with the article to create what's this? What word can I use? Yeah, you work with the article to craft a packet. Yeah, so all the way from like the data link layer, like which bytes should you put to represent the header for each part of the layer. I did that and I found that very insightful. Yeah, maybe you guys can try it too. So you pretty much construct the bytes yourself. I mean the packet by inputting the bytes yourself. Yeah.
That's within the book, or it's another link?
So the book is a collection of articles.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So the book is called POC or GTFO. It means what it says, that you can't really read it by just reading. You have to follow along with the article. Yeah.
Nice. So maybe for those listening to the recording, we'll add the link to remember to add the link to the YouTube upload description.
Okay. All right, guys. If there's nothing else, thank you for joining the session. I hope you learned something. You can always continue the discussion, I guess, on LinkedIn, or also within this chat. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Kamunto. I feel like I should reach out to you, Kamunto, especially that now that I'm doing this networking module, you seem to be knowledgeable around that area.
I am a learner also, so yeah, sure, you can definitely.
Yeah, we might track some of the papers and assignments.
Okay, cool. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye.
bye.